Welcome guys. Today I am going to show you the best PS4 zombie games, part 1. Let's begin with number 5. Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 was a pretty big change in comparison to the past main installments. Within the game, players take the role of Leon S. Kennedy, who is sent out on a mission to recover the president's daughter Ashley Graham. This takes players to a rural area of Spain where most of the villagers are cursed with a virus that turned them into zombie-like creatures. Mechanically, the gameplay was the drastic difference with Resident Evil 4, and despite being a risky move for the franchise, the reception to the gameplay was overwhelmingly positive. Losing out on the tank-style controls, Capcom opted to bring players more into the action by giving an over-the-shoulder view that not only helped in maneuvering around the map easier, but the combat was fluid. When focusing on the main objectives, Resident Evil 4 is about 16 hours in length. If you're a gamer that strives to see all aspects of the game, you are likely to spend around 30.5 hours to obtain 100% completion. Next, number 4. Resident Evil 7. Developed and published by Capcom, the long-running survival horror franchise, Resident Evil should be no stranger to gamers. However, over the years, we have seen the franchise take a slight turn towards its humble roots of being a survival horror title. Instead, the franchise began to experiment with a more blockbuster action-packed experience, though that's since changed with the latest installment. Resident Evil 7 takes players back to the terrifying atmosphere in a first-person perspective, which is a bit unique compared to the third-person gameplay style the series is known for. Regardless, players take on the role of a new protagonist, Ethan Winters, who finds himself trapped in a psychotic family at a derelict plantation. Determined to find his wife Mia, Ethan Winters dabbles deeper into the Baker family in order to uncover what's going on, and just how this family is connected to the disappearance of Mia Winters. As stated, since this title takes players back to a more atmospheric survival horror experience that Resident Evil first started out as, players shouldn't expect too much action. Instead, there will be a focus on surviving your surroundings and solving puzzles. With that said, there is DLC that will star Chris Redfield, a staple character from the franchise, which should provide a bit more action to the title along with connecting the game to previous Resident Evil installments. According to a number of gamers, the game will take somewhere around 10 to 14 hours of your time to complete fully. This means that the players can also use around 15 to 18 hours to get all the trophies in the game. Next, number 3. Telltale: The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is a world phenomenon in a wide assortment of mediums. Starting out just as a standard monthly comic book series, the story has been adapted into a drama television series, and then into a video game franchise. Arguably the strongest series of the Walking Dead video game franchise is the series developed by Telltale Games. If you're familiar with Telltale Games, then we really shouldn't have to say much more. The development studio takes great care with whatever franchise they happen to be working on, essentially establishing a new narrative or an in-depth retelling of a story that will undoubtedly draw you in. Telltale Games' The Walking Dead definitely offers fans of the comic book or television series a fresh new narrative filled with hard choices and gameplay mechanics easy enough that even the most novice gamer could grasp without going through an overwhelming learning curve. There are a total of 3 titles within Telltale Games, The Walking Dead series, and a 4th, which will make the final installment, is currently in the works. We won't dare spoil the narrative, which is the strongest aspect of any Telltale game, but if you enjoy The Walking Dead and want a new interesting story with fresh new characters, then you'll be amiss not to pick up the series. Next, number 2. The Last of Us Remastered. The Last of Us saw countless awards once the studio unleashed this video game into the market. This is an action-adventure survival horror-type video game, set in a world where a disease that turns people into mindless creatures similar to zombies has started to spread globally. Players take on the role of Joe, who must deliver a young girl named Ellie to a group safely across the United States. With bandits, thieves, military, and lastly infected between Joel and his objective, players will have to carefully maneuver around the levels strategically. However, the narrative journey will tug on your heartstrings, leaving you begging for more. In fact, you can dive into the sequel right now as well, although the reception has been split with the game compared to the first installment. When focusing on the main objectives, The Last of Us Remastered is about 14.5 hours in length. If you're a gamer that strives to see all aspects of the game, you are likely to spend around 28 hours to obtain 100% completion. The Last of Us Remastered includes the Abandoned Territories map pack, Reclaimed Territories map pack, and the critically acclaimed The Last of Us Left Behind single-player campaign that combines themes of survival, loyalty, and love with tense, survival action gameplay. Finally, number 1. Resident Evil 2. Capcom has been an iconic video game development studio over the years, and it brought out some incredible IPs. One of which was Resident Evil, a title we definitely feature heavily here on this list, and as iconic as this series is, there was no surprise when the development team decided to handle remakes. Unfortunately for gamers, most of the remakes were spent on the original title, and while that's not a bad thing for fans of the series, there have been plenty of vocal pleas for developers to bring out a remake of its sequel, Resident Evil 2. Well, it took a few years, but Capcom did just that and delivered gamers a remake of Resident Evil 2 for current generation platforms. This remake does exactly what Capcom did with the original installment. This iconic zombie title was brought out with a massive improvement to the graphics division. Gamers were treated with a video game that looked as if it belonged to the current generation platforms. Likewise, there were some other notable changes to make the game overall play better today. For instance, Capcom ditched the old-school tanked controls and instead tossed in the mechanics you would normally find in today's third-person titles. Furthermore, another change that was potentially controversial for fans of the original title was the removal of its classic fixed-position cameras. Gamers were instead given the over-the-shoulder viewpoint, bringing players closer to the action. As for the narrative, luckily Capcom opted to make it the same where players are still taking on the role of Claire Redfield and Leon Kennedy. Stuck in Raccoon City after it's become over-infested with zombies, the duo must work together in order to escape. When focusing on the main objectives, Resident Evil 2 is about 8.5 hours in length. If you're a gamer that strives to see all aspects of the game, you are likely to spend around 33.5 hours to obtain 100% completion. Thanks for watching Top 5. Now please smash that like and subscribe button hard. Yeah! Okay, not so hard. LOL! But please like and subscribe for more upcoming awesome games for you to enjoy. And please share this video with your friends. Thank you.